All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we've had a wonderful time here. My name is Olawale, or just Wale for short, Abaniwonda, and the rest of what she said is pretty much accurate. So before I start my talk, I want to ask a question. I was thinking of how to frame it, but I think I'm going to flip it. How many people here have never been scammed? Have never been scammed? Okay, I saw four people raise their hands. According to the JSA, the four of you have managed to successfully escape $1 trillion in the economy lost in 2024 alone. You have also managed to escape a 15% of all transactions digitally lost to fraud. You are unique. You are unicorns for never being scammed at all. Fraud in itself is a topic that I feel like everywhere in the world, everybody in the world has tackled one way or the other. Even if you've not been scammed, you've seen attempts, either a fake mail or something of sorts. So I'm sorry, can we go to the next page? So we can begin now, and we need to understand why exactly. Sorry, before we understand why fraud is such a problem, let's understand what exactly we're dealing with here. Trust is a currency in finance, like I said here, because the foundation of digital finance is not just the technology, it's the fact that we're dealing with people's money, people's livelihoods, people's source of income. Like your liquid cash, whether it's your Web 2, your Web 3, your bank account, whatever assets you have it in, they are all targetable. And this is the kind of trust that you put into platforms like the NLPC and the likes who handle it. So we know how important this is. Based on what I said now about the 1 trillion loss, within fintech alone in 2024, we recorded 400 billion lost to fraud. These numbers are staggering if we try to put it into pictures here. Let me say a million seconds should be around 12 minutes. A billion seconds would be 36 years. Now imagine 400 billion. You can stack naira notes, 20 naira notes from here to the moon and back with this kind of money. That is the amount of money that has disappeared in the name of fraud, in the name of funny activities like stealing people's names, brands, theft, and the likes. Sorry, can we now, let's understand what exactly is at stake when I'm talking about fraud in finances. We're talking about things like your onboarding data, because when you're signing in now, somebody can decide to take your identity. You can sign into the wrong thing and go, that's fraud. Your transactions, either they are altered, either they've got, that's also fraud in itself. Lending or going to a loan app, so if somebody here works with Pampy or the likes, anybody who borrows money and just disappears, doesn't come back with it, that's fraud in itself. Or attacking your investment platforms. These are just subsections that are at stake when you are talking about fraud in finance alone, because that's where I'm going to focus. The thing is, fraud exploits vulnerabilities in these systems that normally should not be touched. And the thing, and like I said, no matter how well built your system is, this is something my boss always said, there will always be a weakness. And these people work overtime to find weaknesses you don't even think as realistic. 5 years ago, the blockchain was considered unhackable. It was considered impossible to crack anything in Web 3. But as at last year, it was in front of my own eyes. I saw my friend's wallet get hacked, the next person get hacked, and the person made away with so much money in their front, and all they could do was look and walk away. Because again, it's Web 3. So everybody is saying that somebody hacked you somehow, because that's still the way I see it right now. Theoretically, it shouldn't make sense, but it still happened nonetheless. Now, to understand fraud, I was able to classify it into four segments for this talk within finance. We're talking about card fraud, credit or debit card fraud here, account takeover, loan fraud, and synthetic identities, taking of people's identities. I think I've already spoken about this. We can go to the next one. Now, for fraud detection techniques, we can decide to use rapid prototyping or this thing, other approaches. Now, there are manual approaches to fraud detection and there are automated ones. I don't know if anybody here has tried to deposit money beyond their salary in the banks. Now, the way the banks work a lot of the time is they have your data, your yearly income, your yearly outgo, your monthly income, your monthly outgo. So let's assume for someone like me, Wale, now, on monthly, I have 600K entry in my account. Was let's say with a few margin of about 100K. And one day I show up in the bank with about 4 million in cash and I'm like, I want to deposit this. Automatically, they already flag it that something is going on here. They should question this guy. These are one of the basic approaches that happen without any kind of models, you understand? Or when you're trying to withdraw a certain amount that isn't, or a certain amount withdrawal that's happening in your account that is not normal, they would either notify you for people who are more wealthy people here. The bank would call you directly if they are to authorize certain transactions once it hits a certain amount. These are ways to detect fraud in itself. Now, balancing protection and privacy is something a bit risky as what's it called, as the engineers, because there will always be bias and fairness issues. Truth of the matter, like we complain about it a lot that Nigerians lose a lot of opportunities because the moment they see Nigerian, you're already flagged or something like that. But then I remember some time back where I was trying to process something and the number that came to me was from Pakistan. And I stepped back, I was like, wait, you get, I had to think twice. And it was at that moment that like it clicked to me. This is probably how the Westerners feel when you're trying to either apply for something or sort that is sensitive and it's plus 234 they are seeing there. That bias in itself, as much as I'm talking about it, I'm guilty of it. Because I saw Pakistan there and I already stepped back and I ran away. Now, there's also privacy and regulation. You understand? Trying to make sure that the data we're collecting from you stays with you. It's not something that leaks too much. And now, with this privacy and regulation, I want to talk about false positives and false negatives. So before I get back to this, I want to just talk a bit about the technicality of it. You can decide to use no-code tools for fraud detection like Nected, or you can decide to go the data science approach like I'm saying, and maybe use a library like TensorFlow, and the likes to try and clean your work up. In the end of the day, what works for you best, what works for your system is what you're going to choose. I'm not giving you the best or the worst here. Everything in tech is objective. Now, before we end it, I think I've painted a bigger picture for us. I had to run through this because of the time constraints I'm seeing here, and I'm trying to prove a point to this madam. I'm well aware. I'm trying to prove a point to her. So, with that out of the way, I would say thank you. I want to start answering questions now. You can reach out to me on any of these platforms, W_Abani, everywhere else, to be honest.
Thank you so much.